Welcome to Cornerstone Technologies, home of the Digital Executive Podcast. Welcome to the Digital Executive. Today's guest is Akli Adjaoute. Akli Adjaoute is the founder of Exponion, a venture capital firm that provides cutting-edge startup companies with the financial resources and expertise they need to achieve success. Prior to Exponion, Akli was the founder and CEO of Brighterion, acquired by MasterCard. Brighterion provides enterprise AI applications for payment service providers, financial institutions, healthcare payers, and merchants. Brighterion's AI solution is trusted by 74 of the top 100 U.S. banks and more than 2,000 customers worldwide, processing over 150 billion transactions annually. Brighterion is also successfully applied in homeland security, healthcare, anti-money laundering, credit risk, default prediction, and data breach detection. Brighterion has received multiple awards, including Innovation World Series Award, the Morgan Stanley FinTech Award, the Business Intelligence Group's 2022 Artificial Intelligence Excellence Award, the U.S. FinTechs Award 2022 Banking Tech of the Year, and the 2021 Business Transformation 150, and lastly, the 2020 Fortress Cybersecurity Award for Threat Detection. Well, good afternoon, Akli. Welcome to the show.
Good afternoon, Brian. Thank you for having me with you.
Absolutely. I love this. Appreciate you making the time, hailing out of California. So we've got a couple hour difference here as we're doing it this evening, but do really appreciate that. And so, Akli, I'm going to jump right into your first question here. Let's talk about Brighterion. Has been recognized as a leader in AI applications across various industries, receiving numerous awards. What do you believe were the key factors in Brighterion's success, and how did it manage to stand out in the competitive AI landscape?
Yeah, and that's kind of an important question. I apologize if I start talking initially about myself. I don't like talking about myself, but I think as a founder and the CEO of the company, it has to have something to do with me. So because the question about why Brighterion was successful, so I think I would tell you exactly what I do believe the reason. The number one is I grew up really poor, being a minority. Like when I started my first company in France, I knew I had to be 20 times better because people did not expect people like me to be entrepreneurs or CEO. Our parents were more used, to clean offices, work in the field, do all this jobs that the other people did not want to do. So I knew from day one that I had to be really, really good in what I was doing. By the way, I never learned the AI with the idea I want to be rich. The only thing I said is like, if I want to learn something AI, I want to be sure that I learn as much as I can. So I had a PhD in the field at the university in Paris, which is called Paris 6. From day one, I refused to do PhD that was more like research-oriented. I wanted something more in the applied AI. So I did it at Necker Hospital, which is like one of the most known hospitals in Europe, with the idea initially is to, use AI to build doctors in a computer and ship them to Africa. So it was always for something that really had to have impact and be useful. So I always had this, passion for being an entrepreneur, particularly in AI. As I said, I started my first company, Conception Intelligence Artificielle in France before finishing my PhD. And also as a side, because, I wanted to have a hobby, there are some School of Engineering that are looking for entrepreneurs to share their knowledge with students. So I was lucky to be initially as a teacher. I was asked to lead the AI department and then to become like the head of this scientific department. So I think if I go back to why Brighterion, so look, my background was in AI. My first company in Europe was in AI. From day one, I touched on mission critical. I was in my first company, applied in many fields. Then when I founded Brighterion, because again, go back to the fact that in France, it was difficult for someone like me to really expand or even to be successful. because the stigma, and a lot of people in the United States, they don't know that, but actually it's way more difficult for people like me to succeed in Europe, in France. It's mission impossible back then. And I think even now. So when I moved to the US and founded Brighterion, I had I was prepared, the same thing. Think about something that English was not perfect, no one to introduce me, no connection. And actually, I was the first one in my family to go to university. So I knew again that I had to have a unique AI. I absolutely knew that if another company offered the same type of performances as Brighterion, I had zero chance to succeed. So I had to bring something that's unique. And I think it's the combination of the desire to succeed, like survivor mode. The other things that I like to tell entrepreneurs is, if you have money, you know how to spend it. If you don't have money, you will learn how to make it. And actually, I was talking to one of the company I invest yesterday with the CEO who's having some challenges. It's working, but when I shared my story, he said, "Thank you, sir, because you made my day. I feel now that I can move forward and continue." I said, "Of course, I'm here to help you. But again, how did we make it? We had to be the best." And I will add something for your listeners. Hopefully, if they are, CEOs or people that are founders. So initially, I thought the quality of a company must be just on the quality of AI. Has to be like in fraud prevention. The key was to detect fraud, but to not do any false positive. You should not reject cards that are legitimate and saying it's fraud, because the customer gets frustrated, you lose deals, they will use a different card. So because I want to a field where performance is a key, even if you had connections, if your product did not work, people will look for good products. Allow us then to be people. I was lucky to have actually first company that trusted us. And then after that, people heard about us. But let me just help your audience. I'm sorry I'm taking too much time for the first question, but I think it's important. So initially, we thought it was AI. And then when we had a big customer that requested billions of transactions to be processed per year, billions. And then when we started processing them in real time, the system did not work because we were relying on database for AI, but to store the transaction, get them. We had complex formulas to detect, the risk. Database was not designed for AI. So initially we thought we were going bankrupt. All my engineering, they were depressed. And by the way, they still work with me now for my new venture. But I told them, don't worry, we will find a solution. The key initially was just to help them don't get too much depressed. But luckily, we were able to design in a very short period of time, in less than 6 months, a way of storing the transactions that not only was better, but allowed us to manage over 60,000 transactions per second with a 5 to 6 millisecond response time. So not only we combined the quality of the AI, detect better, less false positive, but man, the scalability was really something that no competitor, I think even today, can really reach the level of Brighterion. I'm sorry, again, it took too much time, but I think it was important for me to tell you how we did it.
I appreciate that, Akli, really do. I know you brought some of that background in, and you had a very competitive landscape starting out, obviously in France, and you had some challenges you'd mentioned, but I think that helped you persevere and push harder than, most entrepreneurs would. So we appreciate that part. But the fact on the tech side, I do love to hear about that monumental effort that you had to bring to the table to do that many transactions per second with a 5 to 6 millisecond response rate which is insane. I know this, I work in tech and that's amazing. So thank you. And Akli, after founding and leading Brighterion to global recognition, what inspired you to transition into venture capital with Exponion? And how do your experiences as an entrepreneur influence your approach to selecting and supporting startups?
I think it's, when you spend all your life like myself as an entrepreneur, I don't picture myself retiring. So I had another company as a foundation to help people that struggle with mental illness, which is a very challenging problem in AI and also in the world, actually. But so I told myself, what can I do? I was very successful because as a founder, I refused initially to take a lot of money from VCs, although in the beginning, they did not even want to give us money. So it worked well for me in the end. So this allowed me to, with partners, to start a venture capital firm. I think it's the main reason is I want to stay involved in technology and help new startups. And, it's when you have a mindset for entrepreneurship, it's not about job title. It's just the mindset. It's like that I'm fascinated by technology, what technology can do. And so I find myself to help people, giving them some advice. I'm not in any way perfect, but I do think that my experience, as the example I gave you earlier about the CEO that, had some challenges and went questioning and when he listened to someone like me who had experience in building companies and, give him some advice about what they need to do. And last week, last week, another person called me, I invested. He says, what's the best marketing strategy you use? And I said, I would tell you, I'm not an expert in marketing, but when I was running the company, the only thing you should talk about is what do you have that no one else has? All the rest is, it doesn't make any sense. Don't make presentations saying that we have this, and that. And if other people have that, it's irrelevant. Just highlight the 1-2 things that you have and make them. And it may look, everyone should think the same way. But I guess when you have the entrepreneur background like me, was over my first company, I started my first company in 87. So, man, I was young. 87 now is how I don't know, like 37, 38 years of experience. So that's really the goal. And also because we have resource. And, it's really exciting. As a matter of fact, today I did another investment in a company that's changing the world, in the veterinary field in biotech. And the company is really bringing some amazing new way of alleviating the suffering of, pets, dogs, horses, cats, etc. with technology. So I love being a part of that because it's just exciting to see the talented people that we see coming with amazing ideas. And I feel a privilege to share my experience with them.
Thank you. I love that. And you certainly got a knack as an entrepreneur to share your knowledge, be a mentor, be a coach, be someone to look up to as far as advice for a lot of entrepreneurs starting out. So I appreciate that. And of course, I can hear the passion in some of these investments and startups that you're making, like the one with the pets, obviously is a great one. So thank you. And Akli, with Exponion, you're providing startups with both financial resources and expertise. What types of startups really excite you? We just talked about one. And what criteria do you use to evaluate their potential for success?
Number one, the due diligence is not just myself. We have a group of people doing due diligence, but the key is always the same. It's the team, like the mission, what's the goal, what they're trying to do. Like I refused to invest, and honestly, I said no to over many investment ideas that deals with gaming, one comes about casino on the web, one about anything that can harm people. I refuse to do it, just period. I don't want to deal with it. I don't care if they send it to you, it's going to make this and that. That's not what I'm interested in. So I look for people that have really desire to succeed. Obviously, I'm more connected to people that the entrepreneur, I would say, not just the vision, the vision of, but the desire to, it's like they have a mission, a goal, they know where they are going, and that they are also humble. And also the fact that I always ask a question, because a lot of young entrepreneurs don't know that, when you build a company, you will always have people that will say negative things about you, about your company, about, of course, they're talking about themselves. They dislike themselves. So anyone that reminds them of anything positive, they will be against it. So I remind them about, are you ready no matter what people say, do, you move and just don't listen to them and don't get discouraged by people that tell you cannot do it. You will, it would be this and that. And that's important because really it's companies succeed with resilience. Resilience is really something really important. Of course, we want to understand that the project is, you can do it, you can achieve it. Sometimes I refuse to invest in companies that people have projects that make, it's just like way too complex without any really true foundation. We look to the background. We look to, know about the field. I love to invest in things that I understand, but I'm lucky to have a part of a group that I am with we have experts in biotech. We have pretty much experts in fintech, technology, robotics. We invest in robotics. We invest in software. We invest in fintech. We invest in biotech. And we invest, any company that really has a business plan that of course, the business plan has to be sound. And I'm talking about the business. With a good team, we're happy to hear from them. And I will introduce them to the other partners who belong to other groups of partners. And when we invest, as you said, it's not just about the money. I think the most important thing is connections and also the advice and the fact that they come to us always with, you only know what you know, the experience you had. It's like being an entrepreneur it's like learning how to swim. And sometimes you have never expected waves and the waves shock you and you have to be prepared for that.
Thank you very much. And I appreciate you breaking down some examples of those. And obviously you have a certain amount of a moral compass or ethics, and that also, I guess, guides your decision as you invest into companies. So again, appreciate the share. And Akli, last question, if you could briefly share, as a renowned academic and expert in AI, where do you see AI technologies heading in the next decade, and what will be their impact on society?
I just wrote a book called Inside AI, and I have I quote a lot of smarter people than myself. There's a lot, like the guy who created the first product called Elisa, the first Alexa, if you want. They're just amazing guy. And in the book, you will see that all the prediction about AI were wrong. I mean, since, prediction about AI were always. And of course, today, there's a lot of benefit about artificial intelligence. It's amazing as a technology. And again, if I am successful with AI, we build a company that's successful, that allowed me to be successful. It means that there is people willing to pay a lot of money for companies that have value. Now, so you see it in your watch, you see it in pretty much everything now. AI, quote unquote, is getting involved in one way or another. I'm more concerned about the risk because today there is a hype about ChatGPT and all this, what we call large language models. And ChatGPT is amazing. It's the first product that allowed everyone to see what AI is. It's like internet. Everyone uses internet now and love it. AI was for companies, for, expert, academia, this and that. And then ChatGPT allowed everyone to use. Now, I will just share with you few problems that I see. Number one is I would tell you through the history, the trajectory of human civilization has always been we validated the knowledge. Like we understand the world based on cumulative and validated knowledge. Everything that we call science was proven. We do a lot of validation before we accept something as scientific, because the credibility of, that's what is called science. In France, we use the word science exacte, which is the exact science. The problem with AI is we're entering a world where everything is approximative. There's no more cumulative. It's just we learn from data, and then what we call learn, it's based on statistics and probability. And that can be a risk of moving from the world where science was proven, validated, to a world where approximation becomes science. That's a really big risk. The other problem is if we see more and more of this in education. So we don't want everyone to think the same way. We don't want a world of future generation that will rely for sure on AI system to learn, but we end with like an intellectual conformity where no more out-box thinking, no more imaginative thinking, no more nothing. It's just, you don't want the zombies, people thinking all based on probability and statistics. We don't have a lot of time, but I would tell you the ideas that I had with the first version of my technology called Smart Agent. We have a lot of patents on it. When I was in France, I was broke. I couldn't have a coffee, so I was doing my PhD. And then I got a book, because books in the street of Paris Saint-Germain near La Sorbonne. I was waiting for my wife now, Natalie. She was doing her PhD at Stanford, La Sorbonne. And I bought a book that was written 1600, like one six or something. It's in my PhD thesis anyway. And then the book says, if you want to, it talks about religion and this and that. And then inside it says, if you want to teach how a clock works or a watch works, you have to dismantle the watch and be sure that every element justify why he needs to be in the watch. And that's opened my mind to create something that helped me solve a big problem in the industry in France. So that book, ChatGPT would not even look for it because it's like an outliner. So that's one of the risks I see. Another thing I'm sure everyone is looking for it today. So we want to be sure that we see the problem with deep fake application. You saw, for example, what happened with Taylor Swift, and this type of things is going to go, being used for real teenagers in school, because there's thousands of apps that allow you now to do deep fake, and because they will probably steal the data of people, who knows. So we enter a world where we don't know what's true, what's false. We already, a lot of people don't believe any news anyway. But if we start not knowing if the picture is true or not, which world we will be in, who will listen to anything, that's the problem. The problem is like we're creating a world with deep fake. This is a big risk for the democracy, it's scary to live in a world where you don't know if the information you're seeing or the picture, whether it's true or fake. And think about the sabotage that can happen for companies. You hear about ransomware, big corporation, a hospital get hacked, this and that. You pay or we will not do. You know what happened in Las Vegas will happen with many companies. I forget the one that manages oil, that they had to pay. Picture deep fake, the way, things portraying CEOs or board members doing things to destroy the reputation of the product itself. So I'm more concerned. I do know that AI is beautiful, brings a lot of value, but hell, we have to start immediately, worldwide, which is extremely difficult, defining the most stringent rules to protect it against the risk of artificial intelligence.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. As you know, there's a lot of activity going on right now. In fact, Elon Musk has spoken very outright about this, about the ethics of AI, and subsequently has filed a lawsuit against OpenAI. And he has a lot of concerns there. And as we're starting to see some people have some serious discussions about it. So I do hope We bring ethics to bear, so we do this the right way. And Akli, it was such a pleasure having you on this evening, and I look forward to speaking with you real soon.
Hey, Brian, thank you so much for having me. Thank you. It's an honor. So anytime.
Bye for now.